Pass over the middle to Sapunjas, and Sapunjas is close to a first down up at the 44-yard line.
Well, they've done their scouting report. That play is the play they like to come back to pitch, but Sapunjas coming over the middle, had a clear field, picked up the first.
First and 10 for the Calgary Stampeders. The initial first down of the football game for Calgary. 4 receivers wide to the right. Barrett getting pretty good protection. Throws to Kevin Simeon, and he'll have a gain of about 9 yards.
Well, that was the 4 receiver pack again to this side out of the 6 receivers, and they can't get the ball to Pitts, but Danny Barrett's doing a good job coming off to his secondary receivers. Simeon, he's one of those guys that came in after training camp, and he's a starter. Wally Buono's really happy with him.
The helicopter view of Winnipeg Stadium with 52,000 watching this 79th Grey Cup game. The weather much colder than is normal for this time of year in the Manitoba capital. Earlier in the week, with the mercury close to the 0 mark. As a matter of fact, on Monday it was above freezing. There was hope that it would be ideal for game day, but some Arctic air moved in, and as a result, the mercury has plummeted. Second and about 1. Again, out of that 6-back formation, Danny Barrett trying to keep. It doesn't appear as though his forward progress got him a first down, as he was stacked up by Rodney Harding and then pushed back.
I think the big problem here, Don, was he went on a quick count. It looked like the defense was ready before the offense. I mean, the defense is getting a better charge than Danny Barrett's own offensive line, and he didn't make it.
Well, it has warmed up a little over the last half hour, if you can call minus 16 any warmer, really, than minus 18 degrees.
I don't know that there's a lot of difference.
They're down, the Stamps keep, and this time there's no doubt as Danny Barrett drives straight ahead and picks up a first down.
I know what Wally Buono sent in. He didn't send in anybody for personnel purposes. He sent him in for a little motivation. He said, get that first down. Let's get a good hit out.
Wally Buono, in his second year as head coach of the Calgary Stampeders. What a job he did with the Calgary team this year. His career coaching record in Calgary is very impressive. 20 wins, 13 losses. This time pressure as Danny Barrett goes down, a loss of about 3 yards. Coming from their linebacking positions were Darryl Ford and Don Moan, and they got to the quarterback, Danny Barrett.
When you get linebackers coming in to get pressure, that's what you have to worry about as an offensive line. They've got more people rushing the passer than they've got blockers. That's what Danny Barrett had the problem with.
From the shotgun formation, Danny Barrett finds his receiver open, and Pee Wee Smith on the sidelines gets away from Jim Rockford, but apparently Rockford got a piece of him, forcing him out of bounds at the 33-yard line. And I think it's quite obvious as you listen and watch the fan reaction at Winnipeg Stadium that the majority of spectators are cheering for the team in red.
Well, the Calgary spectators are here, the fans from Calgary, but what is impressive is the number of people here from Saskatchewan. I mean, there are thousands of green hats out in the crowd.
23 yards the gain on the pass to Pee Wee Smith, who was the hero late in the game in the Western Final against the Edmonton Eskimos. Pass intended for Sean Beals, incomplete. He was being covered by Don Wilson. It's second and 10 for the Stampeders.
Danny Barrett took the hit on that play. What he's trying to do is to set it up so they can get back to Alan Pitts. He's got the 4 receivers they're using always to his right side, but he takes a tremendous hit. He had to get rid of the ball a little too soon.
Stampeders in their import Canadian balance have 7 on each side of the football, while the Argos have 5 imports on offense, 9 on defense. Barrett throwing deep into the end zone. Penalty flag on the play. Not much doubt about that.
The Edmonton Eskimos have seen that play. That's the same play that Danny Barrett threw with 50-some seconds to go last week to win the Western Division Championship. He sprinted out to his left, saw Pee Wee Smith put a move on and then break to the open, but there's no doubt about the interference call.
Reggie Pleasant was called for interference.
Toronto number 2, first down Calgary.
So it's an automatic first down at the 1-yard line. First and goal for the Stampeders. They trail by a score of 8-0. The handoff to Keevan Jenkins. He won't get there. Chris Gaines, who has indicated that he will be retiring after this Grey Cup appearance, came in from his middle linebacking position to stack up Keevan Jenkins right at the line of scrimmage as he attempted to get to the outside of a lead block by Andy McVeigh.
Reggie Pleasant helped out. He turned the play back to the inside, but Jethro Chris Gaines, he's the guy that made the big hit.
Second and goal from the 1-yard line. Barrett keeps. Touchdown. After the touchdown, members of the offensive and defensive lines continue to push and shove, but they cannot deny Danny Barrett the touchdown as he went straight ahead to cross the goal line to break the plane and put the Calgary Stampeders on the board. Steve Taylor will hold for Mark McLaughlin's conversion. And the Calgary Stampeders have drawn within a single point. Three minutes remaining in the opening quarter. 8-7, Toronto leading Calgary in this 79th edition of the Grey Cup game. There's that pump fake. Dunnigan keeps, gets the first down, running to the 50-yard line. He faked as though he was going to throw that hitch screen, decided to run it himself, and gets a first down.
Well, that's the play we talked about at the top of the game, was the pump fake, but watch Cofield come around Blaine Schmidt, and he runs Matt Dunnigan down from behind, so that shows you some speed.
First and 10, Toronto. The ball is at the 50 of the Calgary Stampeders. 2:25 remaining in the opening quarter. For a portion of this opening quarter, the official scoreboard clock was not functioning. Dunnigan is decked. Kent Warnock makes the sack as Will Johnson forced him. And Kent Warnock came in to make the sack for a big loss back to the Toronto 53.
Well, that was not only a sack, that was a thump. Matt can't see, and now Warnock comes in and really cleans it up. Cofield's blocked this time, but Will Johnson wasn't blocked, and he got into Matt's vision. Warnock cleaned it up.
Second and 17. Dunnigan trying to throw, and that's pretty difficult when a guy like Kent Warnock has his arms wrapped around you and the ball falls harmlessly to the turf.
Well, you've got to admit that Kent Warnock, I mean, that's two good plays back-to-back, as you're going to see. University of Calgary has an impact in this football game. There are 7 University of Calgary football players out there, and I think that's, counting Mr. Warnock, that's the most of any university.
Yes, there are 7 who played for the Dinosaurs in action this afternoon. 5 of them performing with the Stampeders, 2 with the Toronto Argonauts. Errol Tucker and Pee Wee Smith are back for the third down punt by Hank Alisic. Another pretty good kick by Alisic. Pee Wee Smith lets it bounce, takes the ball at the 17-yard line. Penalty flag in the play as Smith is down at the 27, a run back of 10 yards. A 41-yard kick and a 10-yard return, and it is a no yards call. Well, the city of Winnipeg certainly staged a party this Grey Cup week. All the visitors remarked that this may be one of the best Grey Cups they have ever attended. Unfortunately, the weather didn't cooperate on this Grey Cup Sunday, as it could be 12 degrees warmer than it is.
Bounce back penalty. Decline. Calgary first out.
I can't think of a better host for a Grey Cup than this city. I mean, the volunteers have been super. From the minute you got off the airplane until you got to your hotel and all the activities this week, I mean, it's a warm Winnipeg welcome and warm hospitality. Cold football.
And it's going to get colder as the afternoon progresses and the sun sets in the west. It's a first down from the 26-yard line. Pee-wee Smith takes the ball down the sidelines for a first down, forced out by Carl Graisley.
Pee-wee Smith is an inspiration to this football team. Newspapers had a picture of him shining the owner's car this week. He was riding Itzy, their mascot horse. But hey, he's been doing something the last few plays here, and what a punt returner. Now he shows his speed, just a simple pass, made a lot out of it.
People probably wonder what his given name is. It's Demetrius, not Pee-wee. Sapunjas takes the pass over the middle to the 50-yard line. Don Moan was there to make the tackle, take the feet out from under Sapunjas. Wally Buono was saying yesterday that many teams have inquired about the availability of David Sapunjas. He said he is not available.
Oh, he won't let Sapunjas go. This guy has made big play after big play.
No huddle offense. The pass complete to Sean Beals, and this is a Calgary first down. Beals is decked at the 52-yard line. Stampeders made a couple of early mistakes. An interception led to a Toronto touchdown, but since then the momentum seems to be shifting. The Stampeders appear to have settled down. They're playing well. David Bevell was in on the stop on Beals, but not before he picked up a first down to the 52. Pass is knocked down right at the line of scrimmage by Mike Campbell. And that is also the final play of the opening quarter here at Winnipeg Stadium. It's 8-7. Toronto leads Calgary. Back to Winnipeg Stadium and the 79th Grey Cup game as we start the second quarter. Calgary 2nd and 10. The Stamps trailing by a point. Sideline pattern. And the catch is good. Carl Bland making the reception for a Calgary first down.
We talked about those out cuts have to be low and outside. And Danny Barrett made sure that that ball was low and outside. He's not going to give up another interception on a corner.
Bland had to go low to make that catch, and he was able to get his hands on it before it hit the turf. First and 10. The ball just shy of the 40-yard line. Handoff. Kevan Jenkins, and Jenkins runs his way to the 35-yard line. Wally Buono was saying Jenkins is not the type of back who will dance and fool you. He's a straight ahead, hard running back.
What Wally Buono has to be proud of is the way they're changing up. They're getting a lot of good reads, and Danny Barrett is playing that running game only momentarily, only when he has to.
Second down pass should be good for a first down as he found Carl Bland again on the sidelines. And Ken Lazaruk, the referee, indicates to the men on the sidelines that they can move the chain as it's a first down inside the 30-yard line.
Danny Barrett's giving them a real clinic out there on throwing the football. He's throwing to the place where the defense is giving him some room.
Two receivers to either side of the field. Barrett rolls right. He's under pressure. Gets away. And as he tries to cut back, he's stopped by Mike Campbell.
Danny Barrett saved a sack. I mean, he made a great move to cut back up inside. He came off the play fake, and the Argos just weren't buying that play fake. Watch him make his break. He does a tremendous job just avoiding the rush here of Warren.
It will be 2nd and 10 Calgary.
Well, there's Pitts. He's downfield. He's wide open, saying, hey, throw the ball to me. Throw the ball to me. But Danny Barrett's on the ground.
12:36 remaining in the second quarter. Toronto leading by a score of 8-7. Barrett's pass deflected at the line of scrimmage. Donnie Moan got a hand on it, and he knocked it down before it could get anywhere near the intended receiver, Carl Bland.
Good job by Donnie Moan. He got up. He was airborne. When he saw that hand go up to throw the football from Danny Barrett, he batted the ball down. That's the only way they could stop the passing attack right now. Knock the ball down. Moan at the right of your screen really gets up there and jumps up to knock the ball down. That's their best pass defense so far.
Mark McLaughlin with a 37-yard field goal attempt. If successful, the Stampeders will take the lead for the first time, which they do. 12:04 is the time remaining in the second quarter. The Stampeders at the moment are out in front, but the Argos are trying to change that. Matt Dunnigan for Darrell K. Smith. He got away from Carl Anthony, but is wrapped up by Matt Finlay.
They wanted to get the ball downfield. Matt's looking for David Williams in the end zone, but he can't do it. He's got to dump it off to Darrell K. Smith. This is one of the better athletes on the team for the Argos. He gets the ball, but it takes 3 people to bring him down. Almost didn't catch that ball. He caught the wrong end of the football. He got the back end of it.
The gain of close to 7 yards. It's 2nd and 3. Masati and the Rocket go wide left. Darrell Smith also moves out to the left. Williams lined up to the right side. Kevin Smelly, the lone back behind Dunnigan, gets the ball and is driven back.
Well, that's the second time on long yardage situations or semi-long yardage situations, over 4 yards to go, that they've gone with the running game. That's interesting. I wonder if that's Matt Dunnigan's arm. I wonder if he feels a bit hampered in his ability to throw. Yeah, they're just trying to get the ball out. It's a straight-ahead play. Shriko Zezakovic, he said,
So Lance Chomick will attempt a field goal from the 27-yard line. Paul Masati will hold. This time the kick is good as the Argos regain their 1-point lead with 6:09 remaining in the half. A hot air balloon floats in the sky near Winnipeg Stadium, and many of the spectators in attendance wish some of that hot air could be focused on them and directed their way under these -16-degree temperatures. It is a cool afternoon. Simeon on the sidelines, unable to make the reception.
Had he been able to make that reception, he had some green grass in front of him, and had Reggie Pleasant missed a tackle, it was a touchdown. Patience by Danny Barrett. He's getting the ball underneath. I think soon he's going to put that ball over top, because he's got the defense, the entire defense of Toronto, coming up to play the intermediate zone.
2nd and 10. The ball is at the 40-yard line. Toronto leads Calgary 11-10. Barrett is hauled down. Mike Campbell reached out with one hand and simply flipped Danny Barrett to the turf. We talked at the start of our telecast about how Mike Campbell has emerged as a defensive stalwart for the Argos this year. It was never more evident or apparent than on this play. With one hand, he grabbed him by the shoulder pad and pulled him down.
Well, Mike Campbell, he's a strong, aggressive, continuous rushing lineman, and he never stops. He never quits. He's always working, always in that quarterback's way.
Jerry Corrick certainly wants to improve upon his previous kick. It only traveled 5 yards, and this one is better. It bounces to the Rocket at the 5. He gets a bit of a hold out of the outside. Look out! He loses the football. Calgary recovers. A 68-yard return goes for naught. Daryl Hall hit the Rocket as he cut back when he found access to the outside, closed off by the kicker, Jerry Corrick. And the ball came loose, and Paul Clatney recovered after that brilliant 68-yard return.
Well, the good news, great return. The bad news is he fumbled it at the end. I mean, he came in and just made everything happen at the point of attack. What a return by the Rocket.
1st and 10 Calgary, the Stampeders at their own 36. Barrett's pass is complete, and Sean Beals is stopped immediately at the 40-yard line by Don Wilson.
There again, Barrett's looking for the underneath receiver. They're trying to drive people deep, and they're getting a lot of room between the defensive line rush and the deep pass coverage. There's a lot of area in the middle.
2:10 remaining in the first half. On 2nd down, Barrett's pass is complete again. The ball comes loose. I believe that they're ruling that it was incomplete to Pee Wee Smith.
You wonder why that ball comes out. There's 2 reasons. The ball is extremely hard. The second reason is your fingers. The circulation in your fingers has an awful lot to do with how well you catch the ball. You see a lot of people, Pee Wee Smith that time caught it with his shoulder pad. You can't control it.
It looked for a moment as though the pass had been completed, but it was ruled that he never had total control. 3rd down punt, bounces to the Rocket. Waiting for it to bounce back towards the line of scrimmage. There's a penalty flag on the play again, but it may have been thrown against Jerry Corrick. Scott?
Well, Don, the rest of the Argonaut ownership entourage is in the warmth of the booth, but John Candy's decided to brave it in the great outdoors.
You're darn right, Scott. We're braving it out here. And,
what do you think of your team so far?
Well, we're playing terrific. You know, it's tough back and forth. It seems the coverage is very tough. It's in our number, but the ball's so cold to hold on to.
Well, it is cold here today, isn't it?
It's cold. It's bitter.
It's been a great week, though, in Winnipeg, hasn't it?
It's been a very exciting week. The people of Winnipeg should be very proud of what they did this week, and they really put on a great show.
Revitalized the cup, would you agree?
It did indeed. Yeah, it polished it up nicely.
Okay, thanks, John.
It looks wonderful. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the game.
Thanks for a great season.
Thank you.
Pass intended for David Williams, incomplete. Tucker had coverage on him.
And Matt Dunnigan had Kit Warnock all over him again, and you got to wonder how many hits Matt Dunnigan can take on that shoulder. David Williams trying to beat Tucker. Tucker's been on him all day. He's been covering him like a cheap suit.
You talked about Matt Dunnigan and how much he can take. When he walked back to the huddle, he appeared to be favoring that right arm.
Oh, he's a tough competitor, but that's a lot of hits.
Dunnigan's pass intended for Williams, underthrown. He didn't get a great deal of zip on that football. I'm wondering if that collarbone injury is causing him some difficulty right now. It appeared as though he had very little zip on the football on his throw.
Well, Kent Warnock came in and he just lassoed him around the neck, and then both of their weights came on that shoulder. Now they're looking at it. Dr. Jackson is going to take a good hard look at it, and I wouldn't be surprised at halftime to see Ricky Foggy.
1:35 remaining in the first half. 11-10. The Argos lead the Stampeders in the 79th Grey Cup game. Errol Tucker is the man trying to return for Calgary, and he's caught by Bruce Elliott back at the 23-yard line. Veteran Lloyd Fairbanks, 17 seasons in the Canadian Football League. He has played more games than any other active player, and yet this is his first Grey Cup game.
Oh, he was so happy to get to a Grey Cup game after 17 years. All the players called him the Marshal. They gave him a badge, and they all wore the deputy badges. AV brake and wheel alignments. Lloyd's, he calls it his real job, but he's a pretty good football player as well.
He's the oldest player in the Canadian Football League at 38, but he has indicated that he would like to come back again next year. Sideline pattern intended for Carl Bland, knocked down by Ed Berry. It will be 2nd and 10.
Ed Berry's getting wise to all that underneath passing. Ed Berry made a good break, and remember, he had the touchdown on an interception early in the ballgame. Lloyd is on Brian Warren, a top pass rusher for the Argos, and hey, he's doing a good job. Get out of here.
Stampeders with a veteran offensive line. Fairbanks is the oldest at 38, but they average over 32 years of age. Danny Barrett running, trying to get the first down. He is stopped short, and the Stampeders are forced to kick it away. They're looking at 3rd and 2. In the last 4 Grey Cup games, the team leading at the half has wound up losing the game.
One of the things both teams will have to do at halftime, they're going to have to change the jerseys they wear underneath their sweaters, their game sweaters, because that perspiration, that's not going to feel very good coming out in the 3rd quarter. They're going to have to get dry clothing on underneath.
Jerry Corrick has had some problems with his punting today. He was a late season addition to the Calgary Stampeders after the injury to Brent Matic. Matic was hurt on October 20th, the last time the Stampeders played the Argos at the Skydome.
You know, Corrick got to be able to kick a hard, cold football. I mean, he's had a lot of experience at that with Edmonton.
And of course, Corrick with Edmonton in the 1987 Grey Cup game beat Toronto with a last-minute field goal of 47 yards, giving Edmonton a victory in one of the memorable Grey Cup games, one of the most exciting ever played. Penalty flag on this 3rd down punt. The Rocket fumbles the football. There's another penalty flag at the point where he was attempting to catch it. It would appear no yards is the call at that point against the Stampeders, but the initial flag was thrown at the line of scrimmage. That was only a 26-yard kick.
Oh my, it's offsides, and it's against the Argos. Maybe Corrick's trying to kick it away from the Rocket, and that could be causing him to shank the ball. He might be trying to place it. That happens to punters. When they try to place the ball, sometimes it doesn't go where you want it, and you get a terrible kick.
Just prior to the punt, Adam Rita had called a timeout. 1:06 remains in the first half. The Argos leading by a score of 11-10. Referee Ken Lazaruk is calling this one back. Let's listen.
The no yards penalty. Doesn't stand. No yards. Offside, Toronto. First down, Calgary.
Yeah, that's what you don't want to do. Whenever you have less than 5 yards to go for a first down, don't make a mistake on defense in the kicking game, because that gives the other team added momentum. They get back out there on offense. That's like a turnover.
Well, the temperature remains the same, but the good news is the wind has decreased in velocity. And the wind is often more of a factor on a cold day than the actual temperature.
I think the wind is the factor when you get a cold day, particularly out here at Winnipeg Stadium. That wind has something to do with every ball game.
Stampeders retain possession. 1:06 remaining. The clock does not start until the ball is snapped. Barrett putting it in the air. And he was looking for Alan Pitts, who was being covered by Don Wilson, and the two of them exchange words. It will be 2nd and 10.
Well, we knew that Danny Barrett would put the ball up. We didn't know when, but this looks like the time. And Alan Pitts on an out and up. He goes up for the football. Wilson doesn't like the fact that he wasn't able to catch it. And they get a little tough at the end.
And as we see on the replay, it was Wilson complaining to the official and to Pitts that Pitts grabbed him by the face mask and threw him down.
He spiked his head is what he did.
2nd and 10, draw play, Keevan Jenkins, and Jenkins is stopped at the 41 with 54 seconds remaining in the half. So the Toronto Argonauts will get the football back as Calgary will be forced to kick. The Argos lead them by a score of 11-10.
Because of that pass, it didn't really waste that much time. The Argos have only taken about 5-10 seconds off of what they normally would have gotten the ball at.
In 1971, Calgary scored all of its points in the first half in their 14-11 triumph over the Toronto Argonauts. And you know, since 1971, every other team in the Canadian Football League has appeared in at least 3 Grey Cup games and won at least 1. This is Calgary's first appearance since then. The Rocket trying to get to the outside, but good coverage on special teams with Alondra Johnson finishing the job.
I don't know what's more exciting for these fans, when the Rocket has a great return or when he doesn't get anything. I think they like the punt coverage better than when he gets a return.
Let's go down to Steve Armitage.
Don, I'd just spoken to Jerry Cork. I asked him if he was angling those punts away from the Rocket. He said, no, I'm just trying to kick it. I'm having a tough time.
He has been having a tough time. His one punt traveling just 5 yards. Punting average of both kickers will be below their seasonal average in this afternoon's Grey Cup game. Matt Dunnigan can't find a receiver, runs the ball out to the 27-yard line with 33 seconds remaining on the clock.
That's not Matt Dunnigan at 100%. I mean, you could see that. Normally, Matt Dunnigan would get a first down in those situations. Watch the way they get up in the air. That has a Will Johnson's in his face. Warnick makes a great cut to come back around, and Shriko Zezakovic, he ties him up, puts him down.
Something Wally Buono does is rotate those 4 defensive linemen. He likes to swing Zezakovic in there to spell some of them off, and he moves them around.
There's your favorite.
The Rocket loses the football. Who's got it? The Argos retain possession.
Yeah, that's a great job of pursuit. They get the ball out to the Rocket, but there's 3 people around him. I mean, the blockers bring the people who are defending out with them, so there's 3 people around the Rocket. He's lucky it wasn't a fumble.
I think Blaine Schmidt may have got into that pile to recover the football.
Well, it was a fumble. Then he's lucky that his own, Blaine Schmidt, I mean, the big guy came out and recovered a fumble. That's the way to go, big guy. Blaine's in there for Chris Schultz. Excuse me, Don.
Ken Watson and Junior Thurman were in there to make contact with the Rocket. Wally Buono called a timeout with 11 seconds remaining in the half.
Wally Buono, being a former punter, he knows, make those guys punt.
Errol Tucker, the lone man back for the 3rd down kick. He takes it at the 45-yard line and then is forced out of bounds with still 11 seconds showing on the clock. Now it is going to move and tick off those seconds, bringing it down to 1 second remaining in the first half. They have had some difficulties throughout the day with the clock. It has not been functioning properly all afternoon. I imagine the clock, like the players, is a little cold.
Well, I'm sure it's cold out there, and if it hadn't been for Toronto's interception for a touchdown, it would have been all Calgary in this half.
This is the final play of the first half, and Danny Barrett simply drops to one knee to take that final second off the clock as the Calgary Stampeders, under the direction of Coach Wally Buono, head to the dressing room, trailing the Toronto Argonauts by a point. Mark McLaughlin preparing to kick off, and the second half is underway. The Rocket gets a couple of key blocks. And unlike his previous big return, he hangs on to the football before being stopped by Alondra Johnson, but he takes the ball all the way to the Calgary 35. A 44-yard return by the Rocket. Statistically, the Stampeders had the edge in the first half. 129 net yards to 51 for the Argos. That very first pass that Danny Barrett attempted was a key in the football game, as it was intercepted and returned for a touchdown by Ed Berry. Matt Dunnigan gets some protection, throws for Darrell K. Smith at the 30-yard line, and he makes the catch with Carl Anthony all over him.
Well, the Rocket put him in great field position, and then Matt Dunnigan responded. He came out, threw that ball, looked strong in throwing the football.
It's a gain of 6, make it 2nd and 4. The Rocket has certainly delighted the spectators today with a couple of big returns. However, one, he fumbled the ball. That time he hung on to the football. Calgary has passed 22 times, the Argos 15 times. Matt Dunnigan starting the second half with more success than he enjoyed in the first half in hitting his receivers as he throws to David Williams for a Toronto first down.
Well, Earl Tucker knows he's got his work cut out for him. David Williams, 6'3". Tucker has to come up, make a good, solid tackle. Let him have the first down. Don't let him have a big play.
The Argos have thrown equally to the wide receivers and the slot backs, and Dunnigan looks to the end zone for a wide receiver, David Williams. And he was running with Errol Tucker, and Dunnigan's throw was just a little too far for him. It will be 2nd and 10.
Well, Matt did his pump fake again, and you got to think he might have been looking first for Darrell K. Smith, but Darrell K. was covered. Tucker stride for stride with David Williams. There was nothing there.
2nd and 10. The ball is at the 22 of the Calgary Stampeders. The Argos lead by a single point. It's 11-10. Second down pass. Dunnigan is hit from behind. The ball into the arms of Tim Cofield. Will Johnson hit Dunnigan from behind, and the ball bounced directly into the arms of Tim Cofield.
We talked about it at the beginning of the game, Don. What you have to do is be concerned with the ends of the Calgary Stampede, and Will Johnson knocked the ball up, and then Cofield's right there. Tim Cofield got the interception. Will Johnson has the speed to get around a blocker and still cause trouble. Tim Cofield kept his feet, got the rebound.
The Stampeders take over 1st and 10 from their own 31-yard line. Danny Barrett throws the screen over the middle to Keevan Jenkins, but there were 3 Argos in the vicinity, and they stopped the play after a pickup of about 4 yards. That's the first time this afternoon that Barrett has thrown a pass to one of his backs. Don Moen and Darrell Ford made the tackle. Tim Cofield in an ideal position to intercept the throw as it was deflected when Dunnigan was hit by Will Johnson.
I think that's a little deceiving pass distribution because Sapunjas has been a back in there.
Barrett looking deep. Pitts is open.
That's the play they've been looking for all day. They've been going short, going short. That's their bread and butter. Get that ball to Alan Pitts.
Larry Rickman on the sideline celebrating a 31-yard completion to Alan Pitts, who turned Carl Braisley around to get into position to make the reception. The first catch of the day for the man who established a CFL record this year with 118 receptions.
Danny Barrett had a lot of time.
Toss to Keevan Jenkins. He cuts it to the 40-yard line. A pickup of about 6 yards before being stopped by Chris Gaines and Rodney Harding.
That's what Coach Buono wanted. He wants that slashing running back to get in there. Just keep them honest. Just run enough to slow down that pass rush.
Wally Buono said that Keevan Jenkins is a cold weather back. He's the type of back who will run over you. They haven't used him much so far in the football game, but we may see more and more of number 23. This time Barrett throws over the middle for a first down. Sean Beals was inside the 35-yard line before being spun around and turned back, but it is a first down. He was caught by Chris Gaines.
Well, that's what Danny Barrett does well. He gets the ball downfield to Alan Pitts. Now when they come back, key first down was made by Beals coming underneath in a hide pattern. He came underneath Alan Pitts.
10:30 remaining in the third quarter. 11-10, Toronto leading Calgary. 1st and 10, Calgary. The ball at the 35-yard line. Barrett with good protection looks to the sidelines, and he overthrows Carl Bland. It will be 2nd and 10, Calgary, from the 35 of Toronto.
They changed up that time. They got good coverage in the secondary. Barrett couldn't cover, couldn't get to anybody. Finally, the coverage got, the pressure got to him because the coverage was so good. He should have been able to get rid of that ball, but there were people all over the receivers.
2nd and 10 from the 35-yard line. 3 receivers wide to the right. Barrett rolls to his right. He had to dump it off. He had Brian Warren in his face, and just as he threw, Brian Warren brought him down. So the Toronto Argonauts defensively come up with a couple of key plays after Barrett had moved the Stampeders into scoring position.
Well, Denny Barrett went outside away from both running backs. You got to think that he wanted his blockers to be in front of him, so it was sort of a busted play.
Mark McLaughlin will be attempting a 42-yard field goal. His previous field goal was a 37-yarder. He was born in Liverpool, grew up in Winnipeg, played his high school football here, and the kick is wide. Carl Braisley will concede a single point. 9:36 remains in the third quarter, and this game is tied at 11. Well, the Calgary Stampeders trailed early, but they've been fighting back, and they have been much more effective offensively. And it's another Barrett to Alan Pitts pass, producing a first down at the 50-yard line.
You hear so much about the six-pack, but hey, this is just good football. This is what Wally Boano said they were going to do. We're not going to do a lot of fancy things, not going to do a lot of tricks. We're going to do what we do best. And they blocked Campbell this time, got good protection.
First and 10, the ball is at the 50 of the Argos. Backside pressure from Moan, the pass complete to Carl Bland. Stopped by Don Wilson at the 21 with 7:24 remaining in the third quarter.
Oh, did Danny Barrett take a hit? I mean, that's the blind side, and Donnie Moan got him right in the middle of the back. Barrett hung in there enough to get the ball out to Carl Bland, and this guy could break it all the way. If it's not for Wilson, that could have been a touchdown.
28 yards on the completion to Carl Bland. First and 10, Calgary. The Stampeders at the Toronto 21-yard line. 6:58 remaining in the third quarter. 11-11 is the score. Barrett was waving Pitts downfield, but Pitts could not escape the coverage, and Darryl Ford made the tackle on the Calgary quarterback.
Darryl Ford was on a read blitz. What happens is if his back blocks, then Darryl Ford is freed up to rush, and that's what he did. He rushed the passer after his back did the blocking. Danny Barrett didn't see Ford initially.
He was signaling, however, to Alan Pitts to go deeper, but Darryl Ford prevented Barrett from having enough time to send Alan Pitts deeper down the sidelines. Pass over the middle to Keevan Jenkins. He is wrapped up immediately at the 21, again by Darryl Ford, the player who led the CFL in tackles this season.
Calgary has given up more sacks than any team in the Canadian Football League this year, but it doesn't disturb their philosophy. Their offensive philosophy is, hey, make it up on the next down. They made it up. They didn't get a first down, but they're in field goal position.
What a job Danny Barrett has been doing under these cold conditions. He has passed for 218 yards. Matt Dunnigan, with all the offensive weapons that he has to work with, has only been able to pick up 49 passing yards. McLaughlin will attempt a 27-yard field goal. It's up, it's good. 5:35 remaining in the third quarter, and I'm sure 14-11 brings back some memories of 20 years ago. That was the final score when Calgary defeated Toronto in the Grey Cup game in Vancouver.
Well, it's a perfect hold, and that's so important in the kicking game. He spun the laces. McLaughlin gets it up.
The Stampeders playing in a Grey Cup game for the first time since 1971. They don't have a great Grey Cup history in comparison to the Argos.
You know, that was a great picture, and the cameraman, they got to be cold out there, but if they could get us good shots like that last one, they must not be that cold.
14-11, Calgary leading the exact score after 3 quarters in 1971, and of course that was also the final score. Pinball on the sidelines, gets a couple of key blocks, and he brings the ball back to the 37. The Argos on special teams have had great success, but they've lost the football deep in Calgary territory. Scott?
Down on the sidelines, I'm with Argonaut owner Bruce McNall and one of his guests at today's game, well-known Canadian and writer, actor, etc., Alan Thicke, who's freezing. Are you freezing?
Popsicle, that's what I am. No, I'm not freezing. I'm from Kirkland Lake. We put on the suntan lotion when it gets this warm.
That's right. And I understand that you have seen more Grey Cups in your history than all the Argonaut owners combined.
All of these owners combined, yes. And I have a scrapbook that goes back to 1956 of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which is remarkable because that's before I was born.
That qualifies him, does it not, Bruce, to be a CFL owner? Should he not buy the Tiger Cats?
I think he's a likely candidate here for a lot of teams. The Tiger Cats is certainly one. The scrapbook goes back far enough, and I'm going to try to talk him into it here.
Getting tense here in this game, isn't it?
It is. It's a close game. Looks like the defense is going to have to win it, and something will get done here, I hope, this drive here.
Okay, some of your money players have got to get going here.
You're not kidding. Well, you know, it's cold, a little tough out here, but let's hope they can excite the fans a little bit, hold on the ball, and win the game at the end here.
You look great with the jacket open, too, Bruce. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it'll be cool, you know? Thanks. Okay, Scott.
On 2nd and 11, Dunnigan overthrows David Williams in the end zone. I wonder what another David Braley thinks of all the suggestions about potential buyers of his football team. Martin Short, Alan Thicke.
Hey, the price has gone up. I mean, what does he think? He's happy. Happier than Matt Dunnigan anyway. Matt was trying to get that ball on a crossing route. Calgary defense held up, so then he went and put it up top. I think he just threw it away.
A 44-yard field goal try by Lance Chomick. If successful, the score would again be tied. It's wide. It goes for a single point. 4:12 remains in the third quarter. Just 2 points separate the Stamps and the Argos. 3:09 with the clock running and winding down in the third quarter. Dunnigan fakes inside, steps up, throws deep for Daryl Smith. He's got a touchdown. Well, if there was any concern about Dunnigan's ability to put some zip in the football, he certainly disproved them right there with a 47-yard pass to Daryl K. Smith, and he rifled that one down the seam.
Well, that's that same thing we talked about, the pump fake, then put it right down the middle. We said Matt Dunnigan looked better the second half. He had a little more zip on the ball. I don't know what they did at halftime. Maybe he got hypnotized, but he came back out in this quarter, and he looks like he can zing that football. Daryl K. wide open.
With one flip of the arm, Matt Dunnigan doubles his passing yardage for the game, hitting Daryl Smith for the major score. Lance Chomick adds the point after, and the Toronto Argos move ahead of the Calgary Stampeders 19-14.
That was one of the few times Matt Dunnigan had the time. He had protection. He looked over the field, did the pump fake, and now he puts it down to actually the guy who's done it for them all year, Daryl K. Smith. Whenever they've needed a big play, they go to Daryl K. But look at the pass protection. Schultz is back in there. He said, hey, there's nothing wrong with me. I can block. And he does. Dan Ferrone came out and helped him. Hey, he's lifting his right arm, too. That's supposed to be the bad arm.
Matt Dunnigan celebrating a pass completion to Daryl K. Smith for the major score that has moved the Argos back in front of the Calgary Stampeders with 2:59 remaining in the third quarter.
Everyone talks about Matt Dunnigan's injuries and how many games he hasn't played, but hey, when he has played, he's been 6-2 this year.
Pee Wee Smith moves up to take the ball at the 26-yard line. He ran into a couple of his own people as he's brought down at the 47. On the sidelines, here's Steve Armitage.
Don, I've just been speaking to the training staff, the Calgary Stampeders. You see Danny Barrett going back into the game. He has pulled a quad muscle in his left thigh. He's in a little bit of pain, but he is going to play. He's going to stay into the game.
Well, we saw Danny Barrett limping as he came back into the game. Barrett says that John Hufnagel has done a tremendous job in helping him read defenses, giving him some good study habits, teaching him to be patient. Hufnagel, a former quarterback with both Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, an assistant coach with the Stampeders. Barrett's pass as he attempted to go to the sidelines, knocked down. There's John Hufnagel.
Yeah, and I know what he's saying now. The only reason Rodney Harding knocked that ball down is that they didn't block him low. Andy McVeigh's got to get in there and block him lower. Watch Rodney Harding get his hands up. I don't think Hufnagel or Barrett like that.
That's something a back has to do. Make sure that that man rushing can't get his hands up to prevent the quarterback from getting the pass away. It was intended for Alan Pitts. Incomplete. He was being covered by safety David Bavell.
And Bavell's telling him that he had some rabbit ears. I think that's what Bavell's trying to say. He said, hey, Alan Pitts, you heard me coming. That's why you laid off of that football. Danny Barrett delivered it a little bit high, but Pitts missed.
I think he may have lost the football in the sun, because the sun is setting now, and he was looking directly into it, as we see Mike Campbell being prevented from getting to the quarterback by Ken Moore. Pinball takes the Jerry Corrick punt on the dead run, and he is stopped as he gets to the 47-yard line, and then a couple of players come in late into the pile. That was only a 22-yard kick with a 6-yard run back. Right now, let's join Alfie Schlegel.
Well, the Argo fans are few and far between, but these guys definitely stand out in the crowd. Guys, you love your Argos.
This is the greatest football league in the whole world, and the Argos are going to win it. Last possession.
Hey, these guys love their Argos. They're very optimistic about their chances. John, back up to you.
Alfie, you're a brave lady to venture in among some of those football fans this afternoon. But they are enjoying themselves here at Winnipeg Stadium, and wherever you're looking in on the CBC television network, we hope you're enjoying the action. Matt Dunnigan throwing over the middle to the pinball. This will be about 1.5 yards, maybe 2 short of the first down, as he's stopped by Ken Watson. Steve referred to the problem that Danny Barrett was having, and they have now taped that left leg. And Barrett, it appears, will be able to continue, but he will be completing the game, obviously, in some pain.
Well, you need the legs to throw, just like you need the legs to serve a tennis ball. Same thing. You got to use your whole body to throw that football.
Kevin Smelly on second down gets to the 50 of the Stampeders. He has a Toronto first down.
Danny Barrett also needs his legs to get out from that rush. And I think when Darryl Ford came up, that's probably when he heard it. He didn't expect Ford to come from that outside position. Looked like he tried to put on a little spurt of speed. That could have been what pulled his quadricep.
53 seconds remaining in the third quarter. 19-14. Toronto leading Calgary. On first down, Dunnigan trying to set up the screen with the pinball. Dunnigan was under a little heat, a little pressure, and he had to try and dump it off, and the pinball couldn't make the catch. Most of the week, the pinball was walking around Winnipeg with the aid of crutches. He was unable to put a great deal of weight on his foot as a result of the turf toe. And as Steve Armitage discovered when he talked to him yesterday on Sports Weekend, the knee has also been a problem.
But when you got Kent Warnock and you got Will Johnson, 6'8", coming at you, I mean, it's hard to find the pinball. He's only about 5'5".
Back to the live action. Dunnigan throwing deep again for David Williams. Incomplete. He was covered by Errol Tucker. Dunnigan had both Tucker and Darrell K. Smith going deep. He opted to go for his wide receiver, and he couldn't make the catch. Steve Taylor is warming up at the Calgary bench, an indication perhaps that Coach Wally Buono is planning on making a quarterbacking change.
Well, Matt Dunnigan had the blitz on that time. The protection held up, but that coverage was excellent by Calgary.
Third down kick by Hank Olisic with 15 seconds remaining in the third quarter. Pee Wee waits for it, and then he's caught by Bruce Elliott, the first man downfield, and a man who has excelled on Argo special teams this year, and he makes the tackle at the 15-yard line.
I think the war of the special teams is being won by the coverage of Toronto. They haven't had that same coverage on Calgary's side of the ball. So far, Toronto's been holding those good return people of Calgary in check.
And Adam Rita told us that the special teams would be a key in the football game. He said that they're almost a mirror image of each other.
Both teams well coached on special teams, and they both have returners that can go all the way.
Well, I'm glad to see that Bruce McNall has at least put on a toque. He had his coat wide open a little earlier, but he is now wearing a toque, and Danny Barrett goes down in the grasp of several, including Rodney Harding, and that's the final play of the third quarter. As we start the fourth quarter at Winnipeg Stadium, 2nd and 16 for the Calgary Stampeders. Danny Barrett remains in at quarterback, throwing for Alan Pitts. It's intercepted. Reggie Pleasant, who plays the right corner, picks it off. Ed Barry opened the game, picking one off on the left side. Pleasant brings this one back to the 12-yard line. The second time today that Danny Barrett has been intercepted, a 27-yard return by Reggie Pleasant.
Well, you got to think that that one got away from him. I think Harold Hallman had something to do with it. Maybe that wrapped leg had another to do with it. But that ball isn't near the intended receiver, Reggie Pleasant. He's just back there playing center fielder. Hallman got in there, and he just disturbed him enough to make that ball sail.
The Argos now with a tremendous opportunity to really take control of the football game. They are 1st and 10 from the Calgary 12-yard line. Dunnigan throws to the end zone, incomplete. He was looking for Darrell K. Smith, but Dunnigan was under a little pressure from Kent Warnock.
Good coverage. Warnock came in and had him at the ankles, just enough to disturb him. Danny Barrett, he's talking it over. He wants to get back in there. You know, the last time he threw an interception, he came back and played extremely well. Of course, he didn't have that bad leg, but he doesn't look like he's hurting all that much.
Talking with Gilbert Renfro and Steve Taylor, the backup quarterbacks. On 2nd down, Paul Massotti, end zone. Has he got it? No, he could not control the ball as he came down. Watson was defending against Massotti, the two of them battling in the air for the football, and Massotti could not control it as he came down.
Well, Massotti has made big plays all year, and this is one of the patent Massotti plays when they need it. When they're down around the goal line, he usually comes up with a big play. Ken Watson played it perfectly, just knocked the ball out, reaching up over his head, and if Calgary comes back, Ken Watson will have had a lot to do with it.
Lance Chomik with a 19-yard field goal attempt. It's good, as the Argos improve their advantage to 8 points with 13:47 remaining in the fourth quarter. 1st and 10, the ball at the 31 of the Argos. 11:19 remaining in the game. Danny Barrett back to throw. Sapunjas has got it.
There's the guy, the improbable guy to make the big plays. You've got a field full of talent. You got receivers that can run all over the place. And who do they throw it to? Dave Sapunjas. And he runs after he catches the ball.
A gain of 18 for Dave Sapunjas. It's Calgary 1st and 10. The ball is at the 12. Barrett looks to the corner. Pitts, touchdown! He is indeed running. Caroline Jones, and the horse that gallops up and down the sidelines at McMahon Stadium to celebrate every Calgary touchdown, in action here at Winnipeg Stadium as Alan Pitts takes the throw into the end zone.
Carl Bland did the clearing. Alan Pitts did the rest. You want a steady character, you look at Danny Barrett, look at Matt Dunnigan, two quarterbacks that seem to be able to overcome all the adversity, not only in this ball game, but in their entire careers.
Danny Barrett to Alan Pitts, and the convert by Mark McLaughlin, and we've got a one-point ball game with 10:39 remaining in this 79th edition of the Grey Cup Classic here at Winnipeg Stadium.
And Dave Sapunjas, our hero again, he's in there on Brian Warren, making sure that in that six-pack, they don't get the pass rush. And watch Danny Barrett's reaction. He said, hey, I've been down and I've been up. I'd rather be up.
David Sapunjas, who played at Western Ontario, caught an 18-yard pass to put the ball in scoring position for the completion to Alan Pitts. Has made a number of key catches this afternoon and might be one of those candidates for MVP honors here at Winnipeg Stadium. He sometimes is the forgotten man in the Calgary passing scheme. The Rocket looks for a hole. If he gets to the outside this time, he's gone.
Goodbye.
The Rocket delivers. The $1 Million Man provides cause for celebration among the Toronto Argonaut owners. An 87-yard kickoff return. The Rocket, with a late punt return touchdown on October 20th, defeated the Calgary Stampeders, and Bruce McNall, who made the investment in the Rocket, is going to get a return perhaps today at Winnipeg Stadium. 87 yards on this kickoff run back by the Rocket. Once he got outside of Junior Thurman, there's no way Mark McLaughlin was going to catch him.
The thing that the Rocket will do is he'll see the seam, and when he sees a seam, I mean, it is over. I mean, he takes that seam and puts on the afterburners. There's nobody that can catch him. I mean, you can't catch the Rocket with a kicker.
Lance Chomick adds the point after as the Argos respond quickly to the Calgary touchdown. 87 yards for the Rocket. And with the job he has done this afternoon, he's another candidate for one of those awards that will be presented.
Well, according to my calculations, that is the 4th big return by the Rocket. But the acceleration, the burst that he puts on when he sees there's a seam, when he sees the opening, he's got a tremendous burst, and then pure flat-out speed takes him the rest of the way.
Well, a snowball falls close to the Rocket, but even that can't prevent him from celebrating. A kickoff return for a touchdown, and now he moves to the bench to enjoy some of the warmth as provided by the propane heater. And for Raghib Ismail, that is a Grey Cup record, the longest kickoff return ever, 87 yards, the length of his run back. 29-21, 10:26 remaining. Ball was touched by the Stampeders, recovered by Keith Costello. Keevan Jenkins came racing up on the kickoff, looking as though he was going to field the ball. He let it bounce, but it touched him. And Keith Costello was there to grab it.
Pee-wee Smith didn't have a chance for it. What happened? Keevan, I'm surprised he was that deep, and they've been kicking those pop-ups the whole game. And it got a piece of Keevan. Pee-wee wasn't able to get there.
So the Argos, with 10:14 remaining, have an opportunity to increase their 8-point advantage. Incomplete, intended for the pinball. He was being covered by Matt Finlay. It will be 2nd and 10.
It's interesting, in this football game, we're seeing more passes underneath. I mean, you got all of that speed out there on both sides. The great wideouts, Darrell K. Smith, Alan Pitts, all those fast receivers, and yet the consistent offensive plays have been the underneath routes, dumping the ball off.
Wally Buono has to be concerned about the number of errors his team has committed. Fumbles, mishandling the ball on kicks, and of course 2 interceptions. They were a +20 in the giveaway takeaway category this season. Deep throw, touchdown Masadi. Masadi jumped up and hauled the ball in front of Ken Watson. Both Masadi and Darrell K. Smith were down at the goal line, and Masadi went up to haul it in.
Well, we talked about it before when Masadi didn't get that pass that was sent to Kent. When Kent Watson knocked it down, we said that's what happens. Masadi makes those plays. He loves that end zone, and what an unlikely hero from Acadia. I mean, that is a big play in this ball game.
With 9:41 remaining, the Argos now lead 35-21.
And you want to talk about character studies. This guy has to have character. Matt Dunnigan injured all week, injured all season practically, and he's coming back with a fine ball game.
Lance Chomick adds the point after. And the Toronto Argonauts very quickly after the Stampeders moved within a single point have now taken a 15-point lead. 9:41 is the time remaining in this 79th edition of the Grey Cup game.
So much for statistics, Don. I don't think Matt Dunnigan is worried at all about statistics now. He's had some excellent throws. And hey, you only need a couple when you can throw the ball like Matt. That's just going up and bringing the ball down as though it's your own. And we've seen Masadi do that most of the year. I mean, this is a busted play. There shouldn't be two, David Williams or Masadi. Somebody's wrong, but it doesn't matter because Masadi brought it down.
The end result is all, I suppose, that really counts.
And Matt Dunnigan saying, see, I'm going to win a Grey Cup. I told you I wasn't hurt that bad. I'm going to play.
We showed you the statistic about the 1971 Grey Cup game.
Baby, that's for you, Stony Creek, that's for you too, baby.
Where the Stampeders won with only 7 first downs. The Argos only have 7 first downs so far in this game. Pee Wee Smith tackled by J.P. Izquierdo as he brings the ball back to the 32. Once again, let's join Alfie Schlegel.
Thanks, Don. If you remember at the top of the show, I was up here in this position. It's the last seats in the house, but Les, you've survived.
Great time, great time. You don't get any colder this far north. Say hi to everybody, having a great game, and go Bombers, go.
Hey, it's still chilly up here, but we're having a great time. Back to you, Don.
Alfie, that is a long climb up into the back row of the North End stands. 2 touchdowns within 45 seconds. David Sapungis on the reverse. The Statue of Liberty play gets a first down, Calgary.
Well, there's the guy we've been seeing so much of is David Sapungis. They got the 6th receiver. What they do is Danny Barrett comes up, he pump fakes, and then they bring Sapungis back around on a statue play, and that gives them the opportunity to change up.
To the live action. Darryl Ford knocked down the pass. It will be 2nd and 10. 8:57 remaining.
There's a lot of time for Calgary. I mean, they've come from behind many times this year, and they strike quickly.
Danny Barrett. Pass is complete for a first down at the 50-yard line. Wally Buono applauds. Carl Bland taking the ball to the 50, 1st and 10.
You're probably wondering, where are the defenders? Well, when you've got the speed of a Carl Bland, they have a tendency to lay off, let him make his cut.
Pass is complete to Alan Pitts. He was tackled immediately at the 45-yard line by Carl Brazeley. You talked about striking quickly. The Toronto Argonauts struck for 2 touchdowns. The 87-yard kickoff return by the Rockets and the pass to Paul Masadi within 45 seconds.
Well, their kickoff return team has given up some big plays.
Bland on the receiving end of another throw and another Calgary first down with Reggie Pleasant stopping him, but not before he got to the 30.
There's Carl Bland pushing off. He gets Reggie Pleasant back, and then he comes back for the football.
The Stampeders have certainly, as Joe pointed out, displayed the ability this season to come from behind. They did it in their semifinal win over the BC Lions and again in the dramatic Western final against the Edmonton Eskimos. Carl Bland has been a favorite target on this drive. He takes it out of bounds. Forced out by corner Reggie Pleasant.
Well, aside from the 2 interceptions that Barrett has thrown, the rest of the time he's given a clinic on how to throw the football versus zone coverage, how to throw it versus man coverage. They're in a hurry-up offense.
7:12, the time remaining in the game. Barrett's pass knocked down at the line of scrimmage, and Brian Warren thought he was going to pick that ball off as it hung up in the frigid Manitoba weather.
Danny Barrett doesn't throw many sidearm passes, and it's interesting how many knockdowns the Argos have had. And I think they must be trying to get their hands up right at the time when Barrett starts to deliver the ball. They must have worked on it. They've been doing extremely well. It's their best pass defense.
Matt Dunnigan has not changed his number, but he is having some difficulties with his helmet, so he is wearing number 26 while his own is being repaired. Third and a yard. Keevan Jenkins inside the 15.
That's what Wally Buono terms a slashing back. And Wally made a good statement to the press. He said, you know, I don't like those finely tuned athletes. I like those short, fat guys because they can play on a hard surface.
.649 remaining. First and 10. Complete. And Bland again inside the 5, close to another first down.
It's tough on the defense of Toronto because they're trying to determine whether or not they should defend deep or to watch out for Alan Pitts coming deep. When Bland goes deep, Alan Pitts is underneath. When Alan Pitts goes deep, Bland is underneath.
23 Calgary first downs, just 7 for the Argos. The Argos lead by 15. As we mentioned earlier, in 1971, the Argos dominated statistically. Calgary had just 8 first downs.
Well, you know they'll be man-to-man down on the goal line, and Danny Barrett knows that.
Second and less than a yard. Barrett keeps, and he has a first down, so the Stampeders will have 3 cracks at putting it in the end zone.
6 minutes seems like an eternity, particularly for the Calgary offense. I mean, they can score in 6 minutes. They can score a bunch of points.
First and goal for Calgary. The ball is at the Toronto 2-yard line. Danny Barrett has to throw this one away. He was under tremendous pressure, and he simply threw that one to the sidelines and out of bounds. The closest receiver to it was Alan Pitts, but he got some heat up the middle as he dropped back trying to set up.
He certainly did. Harold Hallman is the guy that comes upside, and what he just beat 2 blockers actually, and Hallman put the pressure on him. Barrett had to throw it away. So you watch the pressure that he's getting on those 2 people. Danny Barrett doesn't have anywhere to go but to put that ball up.
Hallman was in his face extremely quickly.
Right between 2 blockers.
Now the short yardage offense comes out for Calgary. Barrett fakes, he's under pressure. Campbell and Gaines came through, and Gaines got to him. I'm a little surprised that the Stampeders opted to throw the football from the 2-yard line.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a run as well, but nobody on the Argos team did. I mean, Gaines came right in. He didn't even buy the fake. The play fake meant nothing to the Argo defense. Danny Barrett comes off the play fake. All it did was hold Barrett, and now he can't avoid Chris Gaines coming in.
Chris Gaines makes the sack. The Stampeders are going after it on 3rd down. 4:57 remaining. Remember, they have to put it in the end zone. Incomplete. Intended for Sapunjas, and the Toronto Argonauts will take over as the Stampeders lose the ball on downs. 3:52 the time remaining. Matt Dunnigan on 2nd down, pumps, throws deep down the sidelines for the Rocket, incomplete. Covered by Junior Thurman. Some of the Argos come off the bench to complain to the official that the Rocket was interfered with, but there is no flag. Let's join Scott Oak.
Don, I've been watching Matt Dunnigan throughout this game on the sidelines, and he's nothing like he usually is. And what I mean by that is he has been in discomfort, obvious discomfort, with gusts up to pain, so that makes his effort today truly outstanding. It seems a virtual certainty that he took a shot of freezing in his shoulder so that he could play today, but still he is playing in a lot of pain. The receivers have confided in me and told me that he can throw for distance, but the balls don't have the same zip on them. Not that it matters now with the score the way it is.
3:37 remaining, and the Toronto Argonauts lead 36-21 as Hank Olisic stands in the end zone. Calgary will get pretty good field position. Pee Wee Smith lets the ball bounce. Thought he might trap someone within that 5-yard area, but the Argos wisely stayed back. Blaine Schmidt is downfield to make the tackle. A 36-yard kick, a 1-yard run back. Well, Bruce McNall in 1988, when he purchased Wayne Gretzky from the Edmonton Oilers, probably thought he might wind up winning a Stanley Cup as a result. He might wind up with a Grey Cup before he ever wins a Stanley Cup if the Argos can protect this 36-21 advantage.
And he still might win a Stanley Cup this year.
Barrett to Carl Bland. That's been a great combination for the Calgary Stampeders in the fourth quarter. .253 is the time remaining here at Winnipeg Stadium. The Argos lead by 15. Will Itzy get another chance for a sideline run? Calgary fans certainly hope so. Danny Barrett has put the ball in the air 47 times today. That's just one shy of the Grey Cup record set by Jack Jacobs with Winnipeg in 1953. And that's the pass to Pee Wee Smith that will equal the Jack Jacobs record.
Yeah, Mike Campbell came all the way over from his defensive line position to make the tackle.
Calgary picks up the first down with Pee Wee Smith on the receiving end of the throw. Ed Berry grabbed him, and then Campbell came over to knock him out of bounds. Barrett tackled by Rodney Harding back at the 45-yard line. He was looking deep for Sean Beals.
He didn't have the time, and Rodney Harding just spun around the blocker and came in on Danny Barrett. You don't usually get a sack when you go low on the quarterback, but that's exactly what happened.
2:38 is the time remaining.
And he's not able to get out of the way, and look at Harding right in on his bad leg and pulled it up.
Second and 20, Calgary. Barrett steps away from the pressure, throws along the sidelines, and overthrows Sean Beals. So it will be 3rd and 20. And I don't think there's much doubt with 2:20 remaining that the Calgary Stampeders will go for it.
Well, they have to go for it, and I'm sure looking back, when they think about the 2 fumbles they gave up on kick-off returns, they ran up on the ball. Those short kicks really disrupted them, and they turned the ball over for 10 points.
This might be the final opportunity for the Calgary Stampeders to pull this one out. They're looking at 3rd and 20 from the 45-yard line. 2:20 is the time remaining in the game. Over the middle to Sean Beals. He's short of the first down. As he made the catch, it appeared as though he lost his footing, and he came down short of the first down.
Oh, Danny Barrett won't be happy with that. Your receivers have to run their routes so that they get the first down on the throws. But Beals, he broke it off too soon, and he didn't get any yardage after he caught the football. Look at Danny Barrett shaking his head. He's saying, Sean, let's get some depth before you make that break. Really, nobody around him either.
Had he been able to stay on his feet, Beals only needed about 3 more yards, and he would have had a Calgary first down. But as it is, the Argos take over with 2:15 remaining.
Well, there's Matt Dunnigan. I mean, he's expecting a baby any day now. His second child.
The ball is loose. Who's got it? The Argos have recovered. Dunnigan had a little trouble with the exchange from center.
I think that's from not practicing. I mean, he's had that problem. This is the second time he's had that problem in the ball game. Anyway, it's a great week for Matt Dunnigan, because if Matthew can hold on to this victory, he'll have a Grey Cup victory, possibly a baby, and his parents are celebrating their 33rd anniversary. And that's what Matt Dunnigan wants to drink out of, a little champagne out of the Grey Cup.
Originally designed to be presented as an amateur hockey trophy. Some might say that's appropriate on a day such as today. The Grey Cup wound up being presented for the football championship in this country. Matt Dunnigan runs with the ball, and Matt Dunnigan is brought down at the 37-yard line, but most importantly for the Argos, he takes a lot of time off the clock. 1:44 is the time remaining.
Typical Matt Dunnigan play. I mean, here he is. He's all but got the Grey Cup wrapped up. He sprints out, and instead of going out of bounds that would let the clock run, what did he do? He put his head down, drove through about 4 different people, and Wayne Gretzky saying, hey, that's my guy. That's my quarterback.
Wayne Gretzky, John Candy, and Bruce McNall purchasing the Toronto Argonauts this past year. And their investment is going to pay dividends, as in their initial year as owners of this football team, they are 134 away from winning the Grey Cup. Hank Olisic's third down punt, taken by Errol Tucker, nowhere to go. Paul Nastasiuk was the first downfield to make sure he didn't get beyond the 38-yard line. The Rocket electrified the crowd. An 87-yard touchdown return on a kickoff after the Stampeders had moved to within a single point.
Well, he didn't get a chance to catch many balls from the line of scrimmage, but he caught some kick returns, and he did the most with it.
Adam Rita's son Kevin, who is a wide receiver at Boise State, is watching today's game via satellite. Adam asked us to say hello. Commissioner Donald Crump preparing for the presentation of the Grey Cup. It will take place on the field here at Winnipeg Stadium. And surprisingly, despite the fact that the majority of fans here have declared support for the Calgary Stampeders, it's a cold afternoon, they are still in their seats. Maybe they're stuck there, they can't get out. Carl Bland on the receiving end. First down, Calgary.
Well, they had a tremendous ovation, and the reason the ovation came about was they were thanking the city of Winnipeg. So that's how the people feel about the hospitality that's been afforded to them this Grey Cup week.
1:03 remaining in the game. Danny Barrett's pass drilled over the middle for a first down to Sean Beals at the 44 with 59 seconds remaining. The Toronto Argonauts are using the Winnipeg Blue Bomber locker room, and it looks as though there's going to be a rather lively celebration taking place there in about 55 seconds. Barrett's pass over the middle, first down to Sapunjas at the 24.
Well, you always look for who played a great game, and the Argos can take satisfaction in the fact that their marquee players have done a great job out there. Darrell K. Smith, the guy that always comes through with some big plays, he was there to get them the lead.
Barrett to Pee Wee Smith. The initial contact by Chris Gaines as he's brought down at the 17-yard line by Darryl Ford. 39 seconds remaining. 36-21. The Argos leading Calgary.
Calgary will have a lot of yardage when this ball game is over. Just the two bombs, really, from the Toronto side of the ball.
Wide open in the end zone. Alan Pitts, he can't haul it in. He got in behind Dave Bavell, And he could not reach up to haul in the throw from quarterback Danny Barrett. 27 seconds showing on the scoreboard clock now.
I'm watching Danny Barrett throw, and he's not really getting everything into it. Now, you got to think that a little bit of that problem has been the pulled quadricep muscle.
Third and 4, Calgary. Barrett complete to Simeon, and he should have the first down. He is stopped at about the 13-yard line by Don Wilson. 23 seconds remain.
Well, the Argo defense is doing exactly what they want to do. They're allowing him to make the catch. They're coming up making good, solid tackles, but more importantly, they're wasting time. They know the potential of the Calgary Stampeders.
Said the ball was at the 13-yard line. Judging by the spot, though, well, they do have it. The measurement reveals, as they brought out the chain, that they just made it. 23 seconds remaining. They actually spotted the ball at the 14-yard line. First and 10, Calgary. The Stampeders trailing by 15. Barrett looks to the end zone. It is intercepted. Reggie Pleasant with the third Toronto interception of the football game, and that will guarantee a Toronto Argonaut Grey Cup triumph with just 13 seconds remaining here in this 79th edition of the Grey Cup game at Winnipeg Stadium. Ed Barry opened the game by intercepting a Danny Barrett pass and returning it for a touchdown. Reggie Pleasant has picked off 2 in the fourth quarter. One of them paved the way to a field goal. This one will pave the way to an Argo victory.
That's Reggie Pleasant's second interception. He's just been dropping back, playing center field. He just waits for the bad throw, and then he pulled it off. Chris Gaines, he doesn't wait for anything. I mean, he wants to hit somebody. He's still fired up.
Chris Gaines prepared to celebrate a Grey Cup victory in his last appearance as a Toronto Argonaut. He has indicated that he is retiring. Dunnigan simply grounds the ball, and we're really not sure the amount of time remaining. It should be about 11 seconds, but they have had problems with the clock all day. Wally Buono and Larry Rickman, the coach and the owner, watching the final seconds tick off. Tremendous performance by the Toronto Argonauts. A team all week that was extremely loose as they prepared for this Grey Cup game, and now Don Crump, the commissioner, is going to present the trophy.